I was just looking at that too, bro.
What is it?
Thyroid.
Oh, okay.
One round. I don't know, bro.
I heard he's in his 90s. I don't know how.
The full body cam video showing the inside of Gene Hackman's multi-million-dollar mansion in Santa Fe is over 20 minutes long. At just over halfway, 13 minutes and 5 seconds, we finally see footage of a scene I'd imagined in my mind's eye, and it's very different to how I had imagined it.
I got nightmares in my head, I fear thoughts build up until I can't feel. My mind fills up into a creature, and it haunts me somewhere much deeper. I got nightmares in my head, I fear.
Hello and welcome to True Crime Rocket Science. How about you? When news reported that Betsy was found on the ground, a bottle of medication on the counter near her, I imagined pills. Pills perhaps spilled on the counter and perhaps even on the floor. And look at these news reports. But the body cam shows something completely different, something I would say is counterintuitive. In this analysis, we're going to look at 4 observations regarding Betsy's medication, which brings us to the number 2 clue we all missed. Before we get to that, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do. If you're finding this analysis worthwhile, please hit the thanks button and let's get started. So number 1, Betsy's Final Act. About halfway through the body cam, in other words, after the officers had been on the scene for over 10 minutes, dumbfounded, shocked, standing in the room with poor Betsy on the floor in a kind of awkward silence, with one of the poor starving dogs sitting nearby, also completely silent and almost completely inert. One of the officers notices first the open medicine cabinet on the right side of the mirror, and then something tipped over, lying directly above Betsy. Given the location of her body on the floor directly below the tipped-over bottle of thyroid medication, it's not unreasonable that Betsy's final desperate act, perhaps as she struggled to breathe, was to open the medical cabinet and search for medication. We know now it was a doomed search. Number 2, pills scattered on the counter and the floor. No pills are obviously visible in the video footage. No pills are obviously visible on the counter. Does that mean there are no pills? Well, no. It's possible there are pills, possibly levothyroxine, on the white counter, and that is if those pills are small and white. No pills are obviously visible on the floor either. It's possible they are simply out of frame or even underneath where Betsy was lying. And we aren't able to see the space heater either. Number 3, the vial appears to be empty. After standing for a few moments in stunned silence, one of the officers eventually steps carefully towards Betsy and reaches for the yellow-tinted medication capsule. It's tipped on its side and on the very edge of the counter. In order to catch this, we really need to slow the video down. As the officer examines the vial, he reads the prescription on it. He sort of rotates the capsule, and that's when you can see that the translucent vial does appear to be both closed and empty. Just from an evidence continuity perspective, when the officer places the vial back on the counter, he places it upside down and slightly further back than it was originally left near the edge and tipped over. Immediately behind the amber vial and slightly to the left is a white cap. What does that belong to? The amber vial or something else? Now you might say, wow, this analysis is totally pointless because there was no foul play. Why are we even doing this? Well, it's not pointless. We need to have the same discipline observing a scene, paying attention to details in order to exclude potentialities so that we can rule out foul play. We need that same attention to detail to rule foul play in as when we rule foul play out. Does that make sense? In a real sense, any incident scene, is a test of our critical thinking ability, and it doesn't necessarily have to be a crime scene. It could be coming home and there being a strange situation. Are you able to join the dots? It could be someone who is misleading you in some way, either innocently or in another way. Are you able to figure out what is really happening? So it's really a test of our perceptual skills, our critical thinking skills, and our attention to detail. Every crime is like an ultra marathon, a rigorous test of our mental stamina to pay attention to a case from the beginning all the way to the end. You know what? Most people simply can't muster that sort of mental capacity. And that brings us to number 4. The vial is not only empty, but closed as well. Now, didn't the news media report that the prescription bottle was open? And look at this article from the New York Post. Okay, so is it open? It doesn't seem to be unless there is another open bottle somewhere. Now, if this was a life and death situation, and if Betsy was scrambling for medication and opened this vial, scattering pills all over the place, why would she close it? Who closes an empty container? This is a curious detail. It's possible she kept the empty container in order to fill her next prescription. But how likely is that? In any event, this is the number 2 clue we all missed. Does anyone notice a third clue in another room? Have you paid attention to this whole body cam video? Well, we're going to deal with that in our next episode. All right, so I'm not going to take it further than that. Another video that you can expect either later today or certainly quite soon is Madeline on Netflix. Why the Leaving Madeline Alone story is both the weakest and strongest link. And if you have paid attention to the Ramsey case, we're going to look at some really interesting intertextualities between the checking system in terms of the McCann case, this whole system where they were checking on their children, and the Ramsey ransom note. That's something you're not going to want to miss, so look out for that. Thank you for listening. I hope you're having a great weekend, and I'll see you guys next time.